Okay, so a few days ago I ran into a problem. I'm kind of a picky person and I just like trying to make my life comfortable as much as possible, at least the part when I'm working or drawing. So there was one thing that was making my life completely horrible, and that was my iPad, specifically the stand that I use, because it has just two angles and both of them are equally horrible. Like, for long hours I can just hope that my back doesn't break while using it. So yeah, like any other normal person, I just thought that I would find something on the web, and when I searched for stands, I just realized that they were just too costly. Like, even the basic stands were 9,000. So I just thought that I was never going to have a normal back again, and I would just have to draw with these horrible stands. But then I realized I'm a designer. I can make anything I want, and that's where the thought came for making my own stuff. So the tools that I chose for this project were two sheets of plywood, two A letters cut out from 1 inch thick MDF, a piece of foam, and the basic tools required for crafting. So the reason why I chose using plywood as my material was because it was just cheaper and easier to find, and also sturdy at the same time. Whereas if I had used something like aluminium, it would have just been harder to cut and just too costly to use. And also I liked the overall aesthetics that wooden stationery had, so that was a plus for me. Okay, so with this I have completed cutting the base part of my whole stand, and this is what it looks like. This will be the way down, and overall I like the finish. This is my first time using plywood, so I wasn't pretty familiar with using this material, and there are a few mistakes that you can closely see if you like look closely, but I'm pretty sure I will sand them out and make it a bit refined. So now on to cutting the top layer, which will be holding my iPad, and this is the whole shape that I have to cut out. Hopefully it stays because it is a pretty big shape, and hopefully it doesn't ruin the material. This is how the whole piece is going to look like. So this will be the base part, the base board, on which it will be sandwiched by another board that will be cut out from here, and it will have the iPad storage area, and below that there these gaps that will be used to stick the two letters here, so that I can get a sturdy angle there. And yeah, now I'll go on to cutting the whole iPad cutout. This is the part where I start cutting through the wood, and this was the most frightening part for me, because the shape that I was supposed to cut is in the center, and from what I know, the wood that I was using tends to break a lot if that kind of stress is put onto it. Okay, so I'm finally done with cutting the whole iPad part, and I just don't know how long it took me because I'm just dead right now. Like, my one of my hand is literally like numb as fuck. So yeah, it was pretty tough to cut the whole thing, especially the fact that I'm not using any power tools as such. So the only thing I had was a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, a cutter, and the mortar part, like the smashing part of the pestle and mortar. So I started it off with a cutter, and I cut the whole thing clean in the starting, and I was able to get the shape somehow, but after a while I don't know what happened, my cutter just broke. So this is the damage that was done here. My whole cutter is gone, like completely dead. So that was a heavy loss for me because this has been with me for a long time, but it is what it is. And after a while this cutter wasn't working and I had to go use a screwdriver. So what I would do is just like place my screwdriver where I want to cut it, and then ram it with the thing.
the hammer, makeshift hammer. So it turned out pretty good, at least the cut, and there was no structural damage as such to the whole shape of the board. And this is the remaining part, the cutout, and maybe I'll use it somewhere useful. So yeah.
I then sanded every individual piece down to the smoothness that I wanted, and honestly, this was the most favorite part of my whole process because it was just too satisfying and I loved to see my project coming to fruition.
Okay, so I am done with the sanding part of making this project, and I'm pretty much happy with the results that I've got because I smoothed it out and the shape looks already too good to be true. Like the edges are so smooth and I've rounded them off a bit so like I don't get any kind of cuts or like knickknacks anywhere. So yeah, I'm very much happy about that. And I also sanded down the part where the legs are going to be attached so that I don't know, it will be a bit easy to install. Okay, so I am done with the whole pasting part of what I was supposed to do for the board, and I'm pretty happy with what is the result. This is what it looks like, and the problem that I had of the whole ply being bent, that is pretty much solved. The whole thing is now straight. I had to keep it overnight and I kept it under some weights so that I could just straighten it out. So yeah, that is done good. The glue is stuck pretty well, so I don't have a problem with that too now. Other than that, this is the foam that I will be using. It is kind of like felt, and I feel I should clean it a bit so that it looks a bit tidy. And yeah, this is what I will be doing. The one problem that I still am having right now is that I still don't know if I should stick the supports to this or I should either just like screw them down. So that is one thing that I'm still planning on doing, but for now what I'll do is just like cut the foam part out so that it suits the whole thing.
I scoped the area that I wanted to cut off with a screwdriver and then I cut it off with a razor blade, which was kind of okay because I got a few uneven cuts, but I would handle that in just sanding it off and finishing. I later found out a problem that there wasn't a lot of stability because of the angles changing a bit, and so I just took a screwdriver and removed the excess pieces of wood that were causing the hindrance, and after that it worked pretty well and I was okay with the overall texture. Okay, so after gluing both of the bases together to the board, I was paranoid that the glue may not work after a long time and it may just fall off, resulting in loss of stability. So what I did was I just screwed down both of them together so that I may not have that kind of a problem. I had to be careful here because I had heard from a lot of people that MDF may crack sometimes when you're screwing it down due to too much pressure, but it turned out pretty good. I then stuck the foam to the board using a rubber based adhesive and it worked pretty good, so I was happy with that. I also added a strip to the bottom part of the stand so that my iPad doesn't fall out or just doesn't slip when I'm using it. Other than that, I just cleared off the uneven surfaces that were protruding from the corners of the stand. And finally, it was done.
So this is what the whole final look looks like, and I'm pretty happy with what I have achieved here. This was my first time making something like this and I have almost succeeded in doing it. So yeah, the addition that I had made was this strip right here. It's because my iPad was starting to fall out continuously when using, so that was good. And this is what the supports look like. So this was the A that I was talking about, and overall it's a bit rough, unfinished, but I'm going to keep it like that because why not? And another plus, I guess, additional bonus that I got was that I can also use it as a sketchbook stand. So while drawing, I can keep it like this and just use my sketchbook like I do normally. So that is something that will be a bit helpful for me whenever I do art. So yeah, that is all for this.
After completing this project, one thing that I took from this was that I can do anything if I just put my mind to it. And that is what I'm going to do from now on, because this just felt good. And after a long time, I had actually done a project that was something just for me and not just for the sake of doing it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I've done, and I just hope that I get to do something more like this, and that is something just for me. So yeah.